Today is Tuesday, April 8th, and this is another update on my progress of beating the S&P 500 along with Bill Ackman's Pershing Square holdings. I do make these videos every Tuesday and Sunday, so if you want to follow along, hit that subscribe button and let's get into it. We're going to jump right into what the S&P 500 did today. You'll see that where I circled is where it closed on Monday. You'll see that to start the day, it definitely looked like we were off to the races. The S&P 500 gapped up quite a bit, and it was able to get above this resistance level, but unfortunately over the course of the rest of the day, the markets pretty much continuously went straight down, and you'll see by the end of the day we actually closed 1.57% lower than we closed on Monday. It did manage to close above the low of the day, but from the peak to the close it was a 5.39% loss, and from the peak to the low of the day was a 6.81% swing. So definitely a wild day today. So if we take a zoomed out look, this is going to be the resistance level that we briefly crossed this morning, and since we crossed below this support level, this is now going to act as the resistance level, which is going to put the new support level all the way down here, which is definitely a pretty big one. That one's going to be 4.96% away. So it's going to be super important for the markets to get above this new resistance level, hopefully sooner rather than later. Because if we end up getting down to this lower one, I think some of the wheels in the markets are going to start falling off and things are going to start to get pretty ugly. So what we're looking at here is the VIX chart going all the way back to early 2007. And minus a few exceptions, it's pretty easy to see that the VIX generally trades in this range right here. All the way to the right is where the VIX is at right now. And you'll see that the only two times that it's been higher in the last 18 years is the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic and the 2008 financial crisis. So one of the reasons I haven't sold anything out of my position during this downfall is that when the panic is high, that seems like a terrible time to sell. From where the VIX currently is, it still has a little bit of room to go up without technically going above where it was during the peak during COVID. And I find it unlikely that it's actually going to get higher than it was at that point. So that's another reason why, at least for right now, I am going to keep everything exactly the same. And that giant gap up that we had this morning gives me confidence that there's quite a bit of buyers on the sidelines quickly ready to jump back in. They're just waiting on confirmation of good news. And I think the likelihood of getting good news is higher than us getting bad news. So it's definitely hard on a day like today, but I do still have optimism that the markets can recover. And as a reminder for the events this week, on Thursday, we're going to get the initial jobless claims along with a CPI report, which is the inflation data point that the Fed most closely watches to monitor inflation. And then on Friday, we're going to finish it off with another inflation data point with a PPI report, which tracks how much it costs companies to produce the goods and services that they sell. So obviously we want all three to do well, but the two most important ones are going to be the CPI and the PPI report. These are going to be all 14 of my current positions. Right now, Meta, Nvidia, Microsoft, Costco, and PayPal make up my top 5, and those are going to make up 54.18% of my portfolio. Right now, I have 94.2% of my portfolio invested, which means I have 5.8 sitting in cash. Like I said earlier, I do intend on keeping my portfolio exactly the same. I did have some thoughts about using that 5.8% that I have sitting in cash, but for right now, I think I'd rather just leave that on the sideline. Since Monday, Pershing Square had a loss of 1.65%, my portfolio had a loss of 0.11, and the S&P 500 had a decline of 1.71, which brings us year to date. Pershing Square is at a loss of 10.77, my portfolio is at a loss of 13.75, and the S&P 500 is at a loss of 15.25. That's going to do it for today. I do make these videos every Tuesday and Sunday, so if you want to follow along, hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you on Sunday.